Welcome back to Tying Tuesday. I'm Rob, and I work here at AvidMax, and I am working with the fly tying materials back in the warehouse, supplying them to you. I have a pattern today. Someone has requested, actually, they wanted to see a parachute Adams tied off. And I have one here in the camera right now, and I plan to, quote, take you through that step by step. Before we get started, we'd love to, if you see here, you can subscribe and help us, help out on the channel, give us that help on what we go forward. So today, let me get started then. Okay, this is a very traditional pattern. I encourage you also, I've seen many different color variations. Don't be afraid to experiment, but what you have in here is your traditional gray parachute Adams. I'm tying it on a standard dry fly, and I'm using a dry fly hook, a 98 840, but there are multiple vendors out here, a Tiemco, Umpqua, Fulling Mill. There are anywhere what you're comfortable with. This happens to be a size 14. I fish this fly every time I go fly fishing. In fact, what I do is I set up a dropper with my top fly, and this is my bottom fly, and then I adjust from dry to subsurface patterns as I fish through the day. And even some days I will catch, this fly imitates so many different, if you will, entomology species out there. It really works well, and I try to tie it so it looks buggy, if you will, with a lot of hair. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this out of the vise here to get started, and what I'm going to do is I have another hook here. One of the things I like to do is to take, particularly with the hooks, finding barbless hooks sometimes can be a little challenging, but I bend down the eye of the hook for two reasons. One, for conservation, is when we catch our fish, we are able to release our fish or unhook he or she much easily without going forward, without, damaging them or stressing them out. Second of all is, tying down, as we hear, I'm putting it in the vise, and sometimes, even many tiers, and like myself, sometimes you can catch the barb of the hook. This helps minimize or mitigates that going forward. Get it nice, level, and even. Thread. Folks, there's all kinds of bobbins out there. There's the loon. There is many areas. And the thread I'm using today is a 70 denier, just a simple black. I use 70 denier pretty much most of the time for two reasons. We don't want to build up the bulk of thread on the shank of the hook. So I'm going back here. I'm going to tie in. Notice I'm back a ways from it. I want to make room for the wing, and whether it's the parachute wing or any other wing, I take it, and what I do with the tag, I wrap over it, and carefully I take my time and try to wrap it side by side by side. Again, we don't want to build up the bulk of the thread on the shank of the hook. It makes for a nice, neat, tardy fly. When I tie here, you notice where it is at the bend. Although the barb is bent down here, you can see a little nub there. I clip, and when we're cutting material, I always cut it at the top of the shank of the hook. So, the first thing, when you're tying a dry fly, the first thing you need to do is to tie in the wing. So I wrap back up to the point where I started. In this case, I'm using a Antron here, and a friend of mine, one of my fellow fishing club members, showed me a little trick the other day. I'm taking the Antron and I make it long, but what I'm going to do is twist it. Okay, I'm going to wrap it around itself. because at the end, this is going to, it makes it, you can take it and just tie it in as a piece there, but I found this was a great little trick, and it makes for a great looking wing, or a post. Many times it's referred as a post. So when I tie this, I wrap. If you notice, it's going to wrap around itself, and I continue to do that. Get it nice and tight. Get it nice and tight. And I'm going to get that. Yep. So, and you know what? I'm going to get a little more Antron here to make sure I have enough. I'd like to make that wing very pronounced, if you will. So I'm tying it in. Again, notice I'm wrapping it around itself, elongating it, and if you'll notice, it will start to wrap. Again, here I am. I'm tying it around together. Now the wing, when you tie a wing, the wing should be, again, the length of the shank of the hook. So I'm going to take this here, I'm going to tie it in, and one of the things I do is I hold the material, I want it on the top of the shank of the hook, so I'm using my index finger and thumb. And when I bring around, I tie a couple loose wraps, but if you can see here, look, there's slack here, and I'm just bringing it around and with my fingers controlling where the, quote, material is on the shank hook. A couple, and then a couple quick wraps. And I make nice, start to secure it. I pull it back, and I build a little ball in front of it so it stands as a post or a parachute wing, okay? Now, all I'm going to do here is kind of figure 8 around here and make sure it's nice and secure. And now I'm literally going to take and make some wraps going up the wing and back down. Just a few at this particular point. Again, minimizing the amount of thread. So I take it. Notice I'm going around here. Oops. There. There. There, there, and around one more time. Now, when I put material in, I like to tie a half hitch in between each step. It provides for a real sturdy fly. So I'm taking a half hitch, again, very simple, across, up, and back. I'm using my index finger, my middle finger. It's pointing at 9 o'clock. I twist, bring it up and around. So the wing is in place. Now, on any of the aquatic bugs, as you know, towards the tail, quote, the body of the fly or the body of the aquatic bug gets thicker at the thorax. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually literally going to take the material, taking my scissors, and I'm taking it and cutting it flat. So now, whoops, there we go, that I'm getting an angle here so that it's going to provide a little bit of an angle and help us develop the body at the angle that we're looking to do. Now I'm going to take the thread and I'm going to go all the way back to the bend of the hook. And notice here, if you'll notice, it's dropping straight down over here. Don't go too far back. This is not more like a scud hook or a curved hook, so that will get us in great position. The other thing I'm going to do is for the tail. Now, using the tail, I use two different, actually, colors. I use a typical brown, or I actually use some golden pheasant because I like the coloring and I think it adds some zest to the fly and gives it a little bit of a hint of flash to it. But one of the things I'm doing here is I grab the tip of the hook and the feather here, I pull it back. There's two ways to get your material for the tail. I can bend it, and I can literally take my fingers and pull off 6 or 8 barbules. But the other one I like to do is I take up at the tip of the hackle, I pull back here, create a little space, and I'm just taking the tip of the hackle out, if you'll notice. And the reason is that those barbules are attached to the stem, and they quote a much stronger, sturdier position. I have fished this fly on a number of occasions. One particular day, I had a very good day on the stream, and when at the end of the day, the only thing that was left on this fly was the tail, the black thread, and the wing. And believe it or not, the fish was still striking at it. So, again, the same thing. I want the material on the shank, the top of the shank. Again, my index finger and my thumb, I hold it in place. I cleared off some of the stem, and now one, I make a second, and now I wrap it. And I don't know if you can see it, but the stem goes all the way back up to where the wing is, okay? Whoops, now see, I made a mistake myself. It is easy to do. See, I'm gonna go up there, and sometimes it helps to just go, okay? Now I'm gonna go back to the tail, where I go, and one of the other things I do is I go underneath the wing, the tail, and notice it lifts it a little bit, and notice how it spreads the barbules that are there. Whoops, I did it again. As I mentioned previously, in between materials, I typically put a, quote, couple half hitches. For two reasons. One, to make it a sturdier or stronger fly. And number two, yes, sometimes I've cut the thread with my scissors. So, now we're going to add the body, which is, I'm going to use a traditional gray dubbing, okay? The material is, and one of the things I have found is buying material. You can buy the materials here in a variety of quote, assortments and packs and colors. I have this here, as you can probably see, but I also have another one which has another 12 different colors. So don't be afraid to experiment, as I have mentioned previously. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab something. Now, when I pull the dubbing, one of the things that I do is you just pull a little. You want to pull out and get the strands nice and straight. And just pulling it out here, okay? Notice, there's not a lot of material here. But I take it, I pull it back, and there's ways in terms of wrapping, but I'm not going to go into it today. I'm just going to make a very basic dubbing on it. I hold the bobbin back away from the vise, and I just pull the material with my thumb and index finger, and now I wrap it around the thread itself. This is not a wax thread. It's the UTC 70 denier, but there are pre-wax threads like from Uni. But anyway, I take it, and notice I just a little bit. The reason I'm doing it thin, I don't want to bulk it up, and I want to be able to, quote, taper the fly if I have to, and I can make multiple wraps pretty much in the same place. So I'm wrapping here. Notice I make sure I get a nice color. Now I'm going to try to move up the shank of the hook. And again, I'm going to try to build it up a little bit so that I get that, quote, tapered look to the body of the fly. Notice I don't have a lot of dubbing here. I'm just taking it nice and slow and easy. Okay, I'm coming up. And you can do this if you keep it nice and light and keep it thin, you get a nice clean look. Notice I went back over it a little bit. See how I'm building it up around. Now, I hope you can see that it's got sort of a taper. Now I still want to go up and around the quote, the wing here. So I'm going to put a few more, I'm going to build up another piece here. I need to grab some additional materials from my little pack here. Oops, a little too much, but we'll make it happen. And notice I just take and pull it out, and and I put it in there. There, wrap it nice and tight. Okay. And you'll notice, I don't know if you can notice, but there's a little bit of sparkle in this, and giving it a little bit of flash. But here I'm now, look, going up and around, and I'm going to tie a couple in front. Okay. And now I'm just going to quote, technically I'm going to build the head of the fly here. The sign of a good fly is you got a nice clean eye, so for the thread. Now what I'm going to do, as I mentioned previously, again, to remind you, I throw a couple half hitches in there. Okay? Now the next thing we're going to do is parachute wing. And we're going to put that in place. What I have here is neck, and I just point out when you get your necks, you know, couple things you want to do is you want to be able to have the smaller hackle for your 20s and 22s. Number two, you will see as up here you got, quote, the longer and the heavier. And the other thing is you want to make sure that the, quote, the hackle is stiff. The stronger and the stiffer the hackle, the better it's going to provide the float for it. And one of the ways to do that is when you take off a hackle, and even if you're in a position at the fly shop or whatever, you can pull it off, you can bend it, and you can touch it to your lips. If it pricks you in the lip, it's a nice sturdy fly. So what I'm going to do here is, again, holding it by the tip, I'm combing this back. Typically, you want the, quote, the barbules, the individual barbules, to be 1 or 1.5 size or the length of the actual gap of the hook. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to pull off the bottom here where the fuzz is, or the undercoat. I'm going to take this and tie it in. Now notice there is a slight curve. I'm going to try to get it so that the barbules are going down to provide a good solid float. I'm going to get my thing here. One of the things I like to do is get this nice. I hold it at a 45-degree angle and I tie it in again side by side. Remember, quote, a nice clean eye. And if you notice, yes, some of the stems are here. Part of the stem is here. Clean it back and there's a nice clean eye for me. And again, I am going to put a couple half hitches in. So there's one. There we go, one. And I'm going to do a second. There. Get that nice and snug. Okay. And you know, a good set of tools. First and foremost, I will tell you, I think a real good pair of scissors will make a tremendous difference to you. And the second thing is, they'll last a lifetime, of course. But anyway, okay. I'm going to take it, when I put my hackle plies on here, I tie it in the axis of the stem along with the barbules. This way, as you know, this hackle here they are, quote, delicate. So notice I'm wrapping around here and I'm going up the post. I'm going to go up a little bit, try to step it up. And notice here, I'll get a nice, clean capability. So I'm going to take it. You know what? There we go. Now, I've got it here. I'm going to go there one more time. Now, I go behind the thing. I'm pulling back the barbules here. And again, building up the head and securing that pattern. Now, to take this, you can grab, of course, your scissors, and particularly if you have a rotating vise. But a little trick is if you grab it here and just give it a tug. Whoops, this one's not coming today. Yeah, guess I'm going to have to Give it a tug. There we go. Okay. And again. Now, I'm going to lift here. I'm going to give it a couple more wraps and a couple half hitches. Putting on or using the whip finish tool, I typically just throw a couple half hitches and give it some good cement. Okay. Now, you remember we twisted up the wing. We twisted up the material. So what I'm going to do now is give the fly a haircut. And you can cut the top. We're going to cut the top off. I can do it at an angle. You have the freedom and the creativity to try something, but I'm going to just cut that top off and notice what we get. We get a great looking wing there. And as such, we have our little parachute add-ons. And I want to thank you for tuning in today, and I appreciate if you would take and subscribe. It helps out the channel here, and we look forward to seeing you next Tying Tuesday. Thank you.